News Roundup for the week of May 10th, 2023. It's been 30 years since the UN decision to declare May 3rd as World Press Freedom Day, and Latin America, unfortunately, continues to flank in this matter. Different countries in the region are the scene of persecution of journalists with daily threats, murders, and accusations, as well as censorship happening all the time. The theme to this year's World Freedom Press Day is Shaping a Future of Rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights. Unfortunately, the state of press freedom in Latin America is very dubious. World Freedom Day is celebrated annually, as I said, on May 3rd, and its intention is to raise the awareness about the importance of the freedom of the press and defend against attacks on the media and safeguard the media's independence. In recent years, though, however, Latin America has seen both improvements and setbacks in press freedom, while in some countries in the region have made progress protecting freedom of the press, others have experienced its challenges, have even technically gone through a slide back, say in countries like Nicaragua, and where there's serious government censorship, attacks on journalists, and limitations on access to information. According to World Press Freedom Index in 2021, that was published by Reporters Without Borders, several Latin American countries are poorly ranked in terms of press freedom. Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela are amongst the leaders, and they're not alone necessarily in the region. Central America has a few contenders as well. In the USA, Joe Biden's presidency has tried to shield itself from the end of Title 42, which is a health policy issued by the Centers of Disease Control to prevent the spread of COVID-19. But it's become an immigration control tool used by both the Trump administration and the Biden administration. While migration is slated to spike, the end of Title 42 will not completely alter the current border policy, since most migrants have not been processed under the pandemic rule in recent months. Still, once Title 42 lifts, the U.S. will need to process all migrants that end up reaching American soil under the regular immigration law, which is known as Title 8. But more on that later. Title 42 is a 75-year-old obscure health law and was reintroduced by the Trump administration because initially it was drafted to stem contagion. Unfortunately, this enables the U.S. government to send migrants back to their countries of origin or Mexico. In Colombia this week, it's been in the spotlight, and that's because it's engaged in a summit in Venezuela between President Gustavo Petro, who's asked for formal resignation of many of his ministers in the process of doing a cabinet reshuffle. Chilean President Boris Boric, he's been changing his cabinet after voters rejected a new constitution, and this blew a serious blow to his administration. Boric, who is 36 years old and the country's youngest president ever, had to change the leadership of 5 of his ministries after his approval ratings have started to seriously tank. Chile has rejected a new constitution in a referendum on Sunday, and this has given rise to the right again in Chile. 62% voted against, 38% in favor. It's likely that they'll try to draft a new charter, but unlikely that will pass either. After weeks of violent protests, what is happening in Peru? Supporters of former President Pedro Castillo are calling for his successor's resignation. But Duarte, who was his vice president and democratically elected with him, is refusing to give up the grip. Peru has been gripped by protests and political intrigue since the ouster of the former president on December 7th. The South American country's security forces imposed a 30-day state emergency on December 14th, which bans demonstrations and ultimately curtails freedom of movement and allows police to search homes without warrants. The Chilean-Peruvian border. There's a crisis going on there between these two countries, and there are thousands of migrants that are stuck in legal limbo. The problem is that both these countries do not welcome their migrants back to their homeland. In the case of Haiti, the Haitians really have nothing to go back to except violence, corruption, and broken infrastructure. And in the case of Venezuela, Maduro's government has declared everybody who left, which by the way is 7 million people and the largest migration movement of people anywhere in the world, and definitely in Latin America, it's declared all those people personas non grata. Therefore, they have been literally stripped of their citizenship and entirely disenfranchised. This is interesting because it puts Chile and Peru under the eye of the legal microscope. And this is where Title VIII comes in, because Title VIII is the American law that enables migrants to initiate an asylum process if they feel that they have or are unable to go back to their homeland. Interesting question. Legal conundrum for both Chile and Peru. What will they do? Thank you very much.